Hi and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This time around I got a movie from 1960 which few people know about. It had two gimmicks in it. It had an actor from one of the most successful movie franchises of the 20th century. It had one of the great horror movie actors in it, and it was designed right from the word go to stink. So let's get started. But before we do, I've got a little bit of admin to do, which is a nice admin. I got a birthday present a little bit early. Still almost a week away as I record this. But I got it from Keith F., who's been a real fan of the channel for a long time. He sent me a movie called The Spider and the Fly, but he found me an Italian version of it. Stars Eric Portman, Guy Rolfe, directed by Robert Hamer. It's a film noir kind of thing from the 1940s. I don't know anything about it. It's got George Cole in it as well when he was a young man, and the music's by George Auric, which definitely means it's a European movie from 1949. So that was a really nice little present I got, and thank you very much, Keith, for sending that to me. I didn't have it in the collection. I do have it now. I'm going through the collection at the moment and trying to get rid of DVDs, but when it's something like this, which is kind of rare and it's really difficult to get here in Australia, I'm going to be keeping them. I'm getting rid of a lot of my DVDs, which are the more prosaic and easy to find films. But this one is the kind of DVD I'm trying to keep in the collection. An obscurity, a little bit of fun, and a great birthday present. So thanks very much, Keith. It's not too late for other people to send me birthday presents, he said greedily. But leaving all of that stuff aside, let's get to the movie from 1960. It was directed by one of the great cinematographers of the age, Jack Cardiff, and is the movie he most hated of his movies. I'll tell you what he said about it. It's one film I want to erase from my memory. The reason for this is that through no fault of my own, the film was a complete disaster. So it's definitely the right kind of film for us to do for this channel. And as I said, it is a movie with two gimmicks. The first gimmick is one which was a technological innovation in cinema, which didn't work. It wasn't very good at all. It was an enhancement to the cinematic arts that nobody really asked for and nobody really needed. But this movie was shaped around it. In its original title, it does have two titles depending on which gimmick was used in the release of the film. The movie in its original title was Scent of Mystery, produced by Mike Todd Jr., who was the son of Mike Todd, who was married to Elizabeth Taylor in 1958 when his private plane crashed near Grants, New Mexico. He didn't survive the crash, and his son took over the business of making blockbuster movies. And his idea was to make Scent of Mystery. And Scent of Mystery had a delivery system for smells called Smell-O-Vision, which is not the most salubrious name for that kind of technology. Basically, the original design was that there were little units in each of the seats in the cinema, and that they would pump smells appropriate to what was showing on the screen. And then after they'd done that, they would pump through a neutralizing odor, and then the next one would come along at the appropriate time in the movie. When they put the movies into cinemas, they didn't do that. They thought, we don't need a neutralizer. Why don't we just pump the smells through the air conditioning system of the cinemas? It's cheaper and the air conditioning systems are already there. Problem is that there were a lot of issues with this. First off, a lot of people got the smells late after they were supposed to be up on the screen, and the smells didn't clear very well. In some cinemas, probably the smaller ones, it worked okay, but in most cinemas it didn't. Now I'm going to tell you about the movie itself, but this smell-o-vision thing has me fascinated. The smells involved were pipe tobacco, nothing like a bit of a carcinogen pumped into a cinema, coffee, I'm on board with that one, roses, wine, and the wine is used in a scene where Liam Redman's character, a guy called Johnny Gin, gets crushed by a barrel full of wine. There's gunpowder, obviously for the shooting scenes, peppermint, shoe polish, gasoline, perfume, flowers, brandy, fresh sea air, peaches, bananas, and wood shavings. So pretty much anything you could smell going through a farmer's market anywhere in the world, with the possible exception of brandy, which wouldn't be in certain markets and certain places. So those were the smells. And one of the things that makes a movie look weird, because I didn't see it in smell-o-vision, I saw it in the other format it used, is that the movie pauses on the parts where the smells are supposed to be registering with the audience. So when Liam Redman's character gets hit by the wine barrels, there's a curtain of wine appears on the screen for a prolonged period of time, just so that the audience can smell the smell of wine. It was a dumb concept. Yeah. Everybody, when they're doing YouTube cooking videos, talks about, I wish we had smell-o-vision. But it doesn't work in the real world. The movie was re-released in the 80s on television, and there was a convenience store promotion with scratch and sniff cards, which would give you all of the smells as they were on the screen. It's still a little bit of a clumsy delivery system. The movie itself, let's talk about that. The brief précis I've got from Wikipedia probably says it best. A mystery novelist played by Denholm, Elliott, who of course was in the Indiana Jones movies, discovers a plan to murder an American heiress. And I'm not going to tell you who plays it at the end of the movie. We find out who the real heiress is at the end of the film. While on vacation in Spain, he enlists the help of a taxi driver, Smiley, played by Peter Lorre, to travel across the Spanish countryside in order to thwart the crime and the criminals. Now, there's a pretty good cast in this, and some of them only appear for one scene. Of course, you've got Denholm Elliott playing Oliver Larker, a crime novelist who doesn't like travelling, even though he's on his first holiday in a very long time. And we get that in part of the voiceover that's toward the start of the film.
But I hate to travel, unless it's in the Commonwealth. Otherwise you meet so many foreigners who don't even speak English. And all those beastly tourists, mostly Americans. They don't speak English either.
Then of course we've got Peter Lorre playing the taxi driver Smiley. Peter Lorre stealing every scene he's in. There's a really good one where he and Oliver Larker are mobbed by kids begging for money. And he does this.
Come with me, please.
Got Liam Redman playing Johnny Gin. One of the bad guys, Baron Saradin, is played by Paul Lucas, who was the guy who played Professor Aronnax in the Disney 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. We've also got an Australian actor in there, Leo McKern, playing an American, Tommy Kennedy. We've got English actor Peter Arne, who turned up in any number of movies and TV series in the 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s. Diana Dawes turns up in one scene wearing a bikini, and a character actress I really like called Judith First plays an eccentric painter in one scene. Judith First is one of those actors whose sexual preferences are fairly obvious anytime you see her on the screen. But I like her. She's done a lot of good roles. She was one of the main villains in Carry On Spying, which is kind of interesting. So that's the plot of the film. It's a picaresque travel through Spain with Oliver trying to find out who's trying to kill this heiress, even though he doesn't know what the heiress looks like. He's only seen her from behind as somebody tried to run her over with a truck. But the secret sauce in this movie, there's two of them. It's not the gimmick, it's not smell-o-vision. It's the fact that it was directed by Jack Cardiff, one of the great 20th century cinematographers. And the screenplay's by a really fine novelist and short story writer called Gerald Kirsch, who was Harlan Ellison's favourite writer. Gerald Kirsch wrote some really weird stories. He was kind of Roald Dahl, but God-level Roald Dahl. He did some really interesting things. Fantastic way with words. And it does show it in parts of the voiceovers he does through the Denholm Elliott character in the movie. So smell-o-vision was a dud. It only worked in a few cinemas where somebody was stupid enough to install the system. So they did something else. They put it into Cinerama, the widescreen format with 3 projectors side by side on a curved screen, which is why all of the clips I've got for this movie are in what they call smile box format. It's the only format that we've got to transfer this movie to a DVD or a Blu-ray. And it was released on DVD. I don't have a DVD copy, I've got a digital copy of it. But it was put in the smile box format in the same way that other Cinerama movies have been, including The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, which I picked up a copy of on Blu-ray, I think last year or the year before. Takes you a little while to get used to it, but were they to project it all flat, it would look weird. There'd be things from the side of the screen zooming in and becoming really, really big unexpectedly. And smile box is the solution to making it not look grotesque, when the movie is projected onto a flat screen. So Cinerama is the second gimmick. It's got smell-o-vision in the first instance. Then they flipped it to Cinerama and called it Holiday in Spain. Holiday in Spain is a bit of a prosaic title, but it works. It's serviceable. And even though it does remind me of a couple of other picaresque movies that were set in Spain, and all of this, of course, occurred during the Franco-fascist regime, it does have that wonderful eye for the landscape and for scenery and for blocking and framing a picture that Jack Cardiff had. In spite of the fact that Jack Cardiff didn't like the movie at all, it looks beautiful. He manages to use the bulky Todd A.a. 70mm cameras that were used for the original smell-o-vision version of this film really well. So basically it's a chase and a murder mystery, and it was very difficult to make. One of the problems I had was, it's a 3-month shoot. A month and a half into the 3-month shoot, Peter Lorre has a heart attack. So one of your two main characters in the film has a total eclipse of the heart. So he was recovering, obviously, after that. Not a well man for a while. So they shot a lot of his scenes with a body double. Now, I didn't notice that until I looked it up after I saw the film. So it's not disruptive. It's not Plan 9 from outer space replacing Bela Lugosi kind of intrusive. And the landscapes and the scenery and the festivals, they do the running of the bulls of Pamplona. They do a whole bunch of really beautiful and not always well-known Spanish tourist attractions and sites and landscapes really well in this one. And I really liked it for that. Once you get your head around the smile box format, you can enjoy this movie a lot. I don't know whether Denholm Elliott quite had the charisma for a leading man. Jack Cardiff wanted to use Peter Sellers, and Peter Sellers came in for a meeting with Jack Cardiff and Mike Todd Jr. Totally flubbed it because he was nervous, and so they went with Denholm Elliott. I'm not sure whether Peter Sellers would have been the right guy for it either. You need somebody with a little more charm and charisma, even though it's probably a couple of years early for this. Somebody like Rod Taylor would have been a good choice for this kind of movie. But having said that, Elliott has a nice rapport with Peter Lorre's character. Both of them are having fun with it. Everybody else in the movie knows what kind of movie it is. And it works. The mystery is kind of interesting. Finding out that there is a person substituting for the missing heiress, and then finding out who the real heiress is. In an unusual scene which requires some unlikely stunt work, which probably wouldn't work in the real world. Umbrellas aren't made that strong. You get one go at it. You get one thing in the movie like this that you can go, yeah, okay, I'll let that one pass because they don't do it all the time. And the umbrella scene toward the end of the film is that. It's an interesting film, and I think you should watch it if you get a chance to. There's a great soundtrack to this, which has been released on physical media by Mario Nascimbene, an Italian composer who's done a lot of good soundtrack works. He did Kiss the Girls and Make Them Die, a Eurospy movie that I really want to get a Blu-ray release of, with Mike Connors and Dorothy Provine. He did The Vengeance of She. He did When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth and Creatures the World Forgot. A whole bunch of films, and even though he was Italian, he did a lot of English films and other films like The Vikings, for instance, and The Barefoot Contessa. He did the music for those. Nice soundtrack, and it works well for this kind of incredibly widescreen movie. So I just thought I'd let you know about Scent of Mystery, also known as Holiday in Spain. It's a curiosity. It's a weird film because it's got those two different gimmicks in it. It's got a leading man who very, very rarely got to be a leading man, and he does an okay job at it while not being wonderful. I kind of love this kind of movie that gets lost because the people who made it were idiots. First off, you try to squirt perfume at people while they're watching a movie, and secondly, you put it into a format that only shows in certain cinemas. You're cutting off your legs before a marathon race when you do stuff like that. And Mike Todd Jr. did that. He only ever made one film after that, even though he lived almost 30 years after. It doesn't have a feel like other films because of that pacing thing, with the need to pause the movie in a sense, while the scents were pumped into a theatre. It makes the pacing on the movie weird, but it's got a good supporting cast: Peter Rahn, Leo McKern, Peter Lorre, Judith First, all of those kind of people, while you've got the kind of gormless English writer, played by Denholm Elliott, trying to figure things out. I'm not sure whether it's showing on anything streaming, because Smilebox isn't something that streaming executives would take to. But if you can find a copy of it by whatever means, you might have a bit of fun watching Scent of Mystery, also known as Holiday in Spain. So that's it for this time around. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notification bell. You can support the channel by donating by becoming a channel member, or by becoming a patron at patreon.com/terrytalksmovies, where you get a few extras every time I remember I've got to give you extras. So I've got some interesting things coming up for the middle of the week and then Science Fiction Saturday. And until then, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies, watch some stinky movies, and I'll catch you next time.